there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Yesterday we predicted it was going to happen overnight because all the signs were there that we would rock the Casbah. We're bombing the Casbah.
Yes, we did.
I guess.
We bombed the Casbah, and we continue as we speak. If you are one of these people who gets up on the weekend and tunes into our podcast first thing, let us tell you what happened. Apparently, overnight, about 1 o'clock in the morning, if you were watching Fox News, you might have caught this.
We join you right now with breaking news from the Middle East. Israel has launched preemptive airstrikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran, going after a variety of positions inside the country. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz declaring a special state of emergency across the country. Just moments ago, air raid sirens were sounding here in Israel's second largest city of Tel Aviv and across major population centers here in the Middle East, warning civilians to stay close to protected areas, to bomb shelters, understanding that in the minutes and hours ahead, Israel may come under direct Iranian attack. We are getting a new statement from Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz. He says, in part, the state of Israel has launched a preemptive strike against Iran. Defense Minister Israel Katz declares a special and immediate state of emergency across the entire country. The state of Israel has launched a preemptive strike against Iran to remove threats to the state of Israel. As a result, a missile and UAV drone attack is expected against the state of Israel and its civilian population in the immediate time frame.
Okay, that was what they heard first. It was all Israel. That was the first thing we heard. Mm-hmm. And a few minutes later, they came back and said this.
We just got confirmation that the U.S. is participating in these attacks. The first word that came across the wire services was that these were Israeli-only attacks, Israeli preemptive attacks against the Iranians. But the U.S., Lucas, we are told, is participating, and that's no great surprise.
No, and officials told me the same thing, John, at the start of this broadcast, that this was a combined U.S. and Israeli strike against Iran.
Understand something, folks. What I thought was interesting about that was they initially dumped it all on Israel. But I never would think that Israel would take it upon themselves to do this alone. You knew, Bill, when you heard Mike Huckabee say, Ambassador Huckabee say to his staff, get out of town. Do what you can to get out of Israel as fast as you can. When he said this yesterday, he knew what was coming. And so
I knew, too, not only with the assets that they had in place, but also when you see that we have the big Stratobombers. And I'm like going, what do we have Stratobombers there for? And the support aircraft, and then, the strategic, fighting aircraft with its support. And it's all in the air. And it's like, okay, they're not doing fly-by test. These guys are prepped, locked, and ready to gun. And they were coming in, and they have targets. And I don't know that it's going to be over overnight.
No, it's not going to be, Bill.
This
is going to take some time. Iran launched I don't know why they thought this was a smart move. They launched a retaliatory missile strike on Israel, which it was expected, but then they launched it on Jordan, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, all of the neighboring Arab communities. They launched attacks on them. And now these communities are saying all bets are off. We have the right to come back at you too, Iran. So essentially, instead of trying to, be defensive and protect itself, the first instinct of Iran was to attack its neighbors, even the Arab neighbors. You would have thought they would have tried to unify the Arabs in those communities. But this is a desperation move. I don't think we would have done it, Bill, unless we had knowledge of something very nefarious happening in the background. We talked about they had discussions, peace discussions, and we saw them at first. They said they're not going very well. Then we heard a report, well, actually, they're going better than can be expected. They're talking about meeting again next week. And
those are all delays, though.
that's exactly right, Bill. That's exactly what they were doing.
Because, when they bring up nuclear, when you talk about nuclear, anything, if they're saying, no, we need nuclear power, okay, I get that. I get that. But there's a different kind of uranium enrichment. And they want to have a nuclear bomb. Now, would you trust them with a nuclear bomb? I mean, I can see history that goes way, way back. I mean, I remember, the scenario where we went in and, there were the parody songs, bomb, 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 Iran, going back to 77, 78, like that. I'm sitting there going, these guys throughout history have done nothing but war. That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
And you give them a bomb
That's true.
or the capability, they're not just going to have missiles.
This morning there was discussion. I heard them say that there are reports in Washington that the latest surveillance, satellite surveillance, has the Iranians rebuilding their nuclear sites and replenishing their sites. So even though they were telling everybody that it's, they knocked us out, they actually were trying to get it back in order so they could use their stuff again.
Well, what I would worry about them, not only that, but I would worry about, do they have cells in different places around the world?
I think that's a foregone. Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. Now, can you go to Walmart and buy a briefcase? Can you go somewhere and put together an explosive device that sparks dirty nuclear material to where you make a dirty bomb and set it off in a major city to where it might not have the yield, but it has enough yield to do some havoc and you do these in a lot of places.
Well, you're taking this to where I was going to go.
Well, I'm sorry.
No. I think you're absolutely correct. I think that it's, we've talked about this on this show about them having people embedded in this country right now, cells, and they're just waiting. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if these cells have been activated, and it's just a matter of time. I would keep your head on a swivel, especially if you're going into a major city, especially if you're going into a city like Washington or New York. I don't mean to sound, really dire, but I mean, we are at war, and war is unpredictable. We have been lulled into this complacency in this country, thinking that all wars are over there and never over here.
No, wars are global. And just because the battlefield is there doesn't mean that you have, satellite groups all over the place. And there are places that we're vulnerable. In our homeland, we've seen some little terror things go on here and there. The World Trade Center is one of them. But we've never really fought a war in our homeland. But if you sit there and if you got military militias from Iran that are here that have the capability of doing some, a limited mass destructive area with, like I said, dirty nuke. And dirty nuke is different than their uranium enrichment for, ballistic missiles.
Right.
Entirely different thing.
They take things like hospital nuclear waste from
college nuclear waste.
They take all this stuff that, it's not, like Bill said, it's not refined. It's not an explosive kind of nuclear. It is the kind of nuclear that is spread into the atmosphere by conventional warheads, meaning the explosion is from a conventional bomb, but it dispenses this nuclear waste. Around a community, and it's terribly damaging. And again, I wouldn't put it past them. Yesterday, I thought this was a coincidence. Last night, I don't know what made me watch this last night, but there was a movie out that came out in 2023, a German movie, but it was a remake of the movie All's Quiet on the Western Front.
All right.
Fabulous movie. The original was an Academy Award-winning movie from 1930 or 31, and this movie was an Academy Award winner in 2023. It was masterfully done. The thing that was so good about it was it didn't sugarcoat the horror of the war. It didn't pretend that when you shoot somebody you don't bleed, or there isn't pain, or there isn't agony, mental agony when you lose a friend. I mean, all of these things were shown as starkly as they could show it on film. Reason why I say that is because, war, no matter whether it was fought in 1918 or whether it will be fought today, war is the same. There's a common denominator. People die. People die in these wars, and it's not always predictable. You can't always say, well, it's going to happen only in Iran. It can happen, like you just said, Bill. They could set off a suitcase nuke in one of our cities, and they may do it in multiple cities. You can only hope that part of President Trump's total plan, and I think that when he did this, he had a total plan, not just, let's get the boats over to the Middle East and see what happens. I think before they attacked, he said, okay, what happens if we do this? How will it affect the homeland? Are we protected on the homeland? Do we have any kind of defense mechanism in place in the homeland in case they do something? And I would hope, and I would think the answer is yes, they do.
Well, I think they do, but the problem that you have is that you can never predict where, when, and how. And that's your problem. There's always going to be a small opening. I don't want to say a breach or a crack of the armor, but, a way for them to do something.
Maybe they do have some kind of spy system in place, some kind of...
Well, one of the things that they do have, and, okay, Bill, you're cray-cray here, but you use some form of communication, whether it's over the air where, if you have private frequency and radio communications, it's going to be monitored. Oh, you got a cell phone. I can text somebody. Everything is monitored. And because AI has taken over for the advertising thing, you can set your phone down on the counter over there, turn it off, and be sitting there going, I'll tell you what, I went by this place the other day that had the best apple cobbler that you've ever had in your life. And all of a sudden, you go and get your phone, bing, got a message. Mom's apple cobbler. Well, where'd that ad come from? We're being monitored all the time, whether, through any of your smart devices. They're listening. You're being watched. We are under the microscope. And that's not a Trump thing. That's something that's evolved over the years. And we've talked about it. We knew it was happening. Well, it's here. And so don't you think these people are monitored too? Everything?
Hey, like and share the show if you would. Tell your friends about us. Jim and Bill, it's another day. This is our weekend update. And boy, I'll tell you, it's a heavy one. This is going to be a topic of conversation for some time because I don't think, Bill, this is going to be a quick war. I don't think it's...
I don't either. The UN is already, Macron is already in there trying to say, we got to get the UN in on this. Yeah, I can really see them doing, something there. And, they don't want, they want us to basically cease this.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure whether it was France or England. I only caught it with, in passing. But one of the countries said, you can't use our bases when you're bringing your ships. You can't stop over in our country on your way to the Middle East.
Might have been Macron. He's the one that's raising hell.
Yeah, well, that's too bad because Trump has a long memory, and I don't think he will forget. Anyway, like and share our show. Jim and Bill, it's another day. Jim and Bill, it's another day. Also, if you want to contact us, it's mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com.
So President Trump, about 1:15 in the morning, in a very somber fashion, came out in front of the cameras. He looked like he just threw on his sport coat because he had an open collar. Obviously, it was a long day. He knew this was coming, and it came at 1:15, and he announced this to the country.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. and we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms, you will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Understand something. There will be people out there, there already are in our country, politicians who are saying, oh, that's none of our business. We shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done it without authority of Congress or whatever. I think of, I'm not sure which senator it was in Arizona, but I know it was a Arizona senator who commented. I don't know whether it was Kelly or Gallego. But the fact of the matter is,
Kelly. Yeah.
Was it Kelly? Okay.
I don't know. I'm saying probably him.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I don't think President Trump would have done this if he didn't figure in his calculations that the end game with Iran wasn't just to go after Israel, but was to attack us. And you may say, well, what makes you say that, Jim? If you were paying attention to what the Ayatollah has said recently and over the years, he calls us the great Satan. Israel is the little Satan. We are the great Satan. The ultimate goal of this Ayatollah wasn't just Israel. It's the United States. And I truly believe they have ICBMs probably either, if not ready, just now they're on the verge. And I do believe that he figured if they get the ICBMs and enough of them, and they have nuclear, even if it's dirty bombs, Bill, like you said, they will use them on us.
The fact that they can get a missile from there to here is pretty big in and of itself. The yield of the bomb, there are conventional bombs that have a big yield that you could put on the top of that thing. So either way, they are weapons of mass destruction. They have intent, and we didn't strike, and we didn't come like a thief in the night. And we didn't come during your hours of prayer. We came at 9:30 in the morning their time.
Yes.
I think there's an 8.5 hour time difference. They have that
Yep.
weird, funky half-hour thing. But it was an 8. If it started at 1 a.m., that would have been 9:30 there. They had their morning prayer. Their mid-afternoon prayer was a few hours away. They knew it was imminent because they knew when they did what they said, and they were doing what they were doing. They knew it was coming. So I'm not surprised that the Khomeini was able to go hide because he knew, okay, where's my paths to get to shelter? And they know it's coming. And I don't think that they care that, the folks, the good people there, if fallout there gets, levels everything. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and kill some of their own to say it was us to begin
Well,
with.
they already have. We already know that in the past month and a half, they've killed 30,000 plus of their own people. 30,000 people in the streets who were demonstrating. Their government killed them. You may say, well, does that give us justification? Yeah. Well, some people would say that if we were paying more attention in World War II and saw what the Germans were doing to the Jews even before we entered the war, we might have been able to save more people. We may have stopped some of the concentration camps from doing what they did. But we kind of, even in World War II, scholars will tell you, we kind of dragged our feet a bit. England was in the war. France was in the war. We didn't get in the war until the end of 1941, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And so I'm just saying that maybe Trump has figured that we're not going to wait around anymore. We're not going to allow this. They call him Hitler in a what do you call it, in a Muslim outfit. This guy is dangerous. He's evil. And he has an end game that nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see what this guy is going to do. I'm talking about this Ayatollah. So it's not going to be easy. This is not going to be Venezuela. This is not a in and out and that's it. Thank you very much. This is going to be...
Oh, well, Venezuela is still on the map, though, with everything else. We've got a lot of, geo firestorms going on right now. You've got war in Iran. You've got Mexico that's going on with the cartels.
Cuba.
You got Cuba that's flared up. That that they're having a hard time even explaining to their own government what's happening. So
I would suggest reading that book, The Invisible Coup. I'm reading it now, and it is an eye-opener. You have to understand that this is not something which just popped up. This is a long-term process, at least 40 years in the making, what's happening to our country. What happened with the open borders, it wasn't like a casual, random, let's leave the borders unprotected. This was a planned move on the left to change the makeup of our country. There is an element in our country today that doesn't want to see us succeed on our own land, in our own hemisphere, or in the Middle East. There is an element, and I dare I say they're globalists and deep staters who want to see Trump fail and want to see the right disappear. And if they had their way, it would happen.
Well, you see that in you see that in what they call them fringe posts. That are out there. They're on the X and all over the place, and they're talking about they think, and I wouldn't be surprised that Kelly, part of that seditious six, would be a part of this, where they sit there and go, you know what, we'll just have the military go in, take out the entire Republican regime, because they call it that, take out Trump and the entire administration, and put it in a military administration until they can appoint a new government.
Oh, yeah.
Appoint a government.
Well, people say, well, Mark Kelly was a captain. He was a military hero. Understand something. Benedict Arnold was the second in command of the Continental Army, all right? And he was just under George Washington, and he was a traitor. So
Understand something. The guy that you talked about yesterday that has, now has to answer for what he was doing. He was training Chinese pilots
yeah,
to,
65-year-old guy. Yeah, you're right.
a former military vet,
Yep.
trained in all these things, teaching them how to take down our pilots. And
Yeah.
I'm like going, that's treason. He's an American. He was a U.S. soldier. Something got in his head sideways, and now he is a traitor to the country.
There will be an element in our military who would back probably the left. There will be. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. We're a big military, and there are people with different opinions. But I think the majority of the military is on our side. They are on the side of this president, and I think it would be a mistake on the part of the left to try to pull some shenanigans.
Yeah, but if somebody brings down the United States, it's not going to be a foreign element. We're going to do it ourselves. We will crumble and argue, amongst ourselves and destroy ourselves. We're capable of doing it. We see examples of it all the time.
The mistake I think people will make is that they will assume that this president will let that happen, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think,
No.
well, I think we have an adult in the room. You may not think so. You may think his rhetoric is a bit over the top, and you may think he's got an ego. But underneath all that outside nonsense, I truly believe that we have an adult, a thinking man who has, in the privacy of his office, with his advisors around him, this guy knows exactly what's going on and what to do. And that's comforting for me, because God forbid we would ever have Kamala Harris in this situation, or even Joe Biden.
Well, they think Kamala is a contender, and Jasmine Crockett now. There are robocalls going on in Texas, and I will tell you this: the Democratic reach right now that's showing up is positive for the Democrats, but that doesn't take the rural areas into account, where the bulk of the Republicans are. They are strong in the metros, but they're looking at metro numbers. But you got Kamala endorsing, Miss Two-Face there, Jasmine Crockett. I'm like going, come on, this.
So, what do we look forward to? It's going to be a one-topic weekend, trust me, in the news, because this is going to go on, and a lot of things are going to happen, and it's going to get a little scary, I think, for a lot of people, but it has to be done.
Yeah, if you're going to pray for Trump, pray for his stamina and he's not in bad health.
His protection.
Well, see, the reason I say stamina, you've mentioned it, I've mentioned it. The guy doesn't sleep. Now, he's been kind of that way anyway, but he did get sleep. But I think life changed for him when he started getting towards politics, and somebody doesn't want him where he is, and they didn't expect him to get to where he is. And he's been a target from every direction, and and now his life has been targeted several times. And you even hear it in his speeches, when he was doing the State of the Union. He acknowledges that. And I think he's come to terms with the fact that every day could be his last day. And he's not afraid. So now he's just going, I'm going to do what I have to do regardless, because I may not have tomorrow.
I don't know if you saw it in his first term. In his first term, they had on the internet a video that was produced in Iran, and it was a cartoonish video about them sending missiles to Mar-a-Lago and killing Trump. That wouldn't surprise me. I think that we talked about targets earlier in the show. I would imagine that wherever he is, that's the number one target.
Well, what would happen if, even though everyone, the Democrats go, well, it's Trump's thing. It was a dump anyway. No, it's not a dump. It never was a dump. But he did come in and really make it a palatial place. And a lot of people go there. It is open to public. But what would happen if Iran either fired a ballistic missile or they had a cell group that came in there and blew the hell out of that place?
I think if you see anything, you're going to see like a drone attack because they're easier
Oh, absolutely.
to hide. I think a ballistic missile would be targeted and destroyed before it even got to our coastline. So, but I do think that there's elements in our society right now who are probably in place who have the capability to do just that.
Wow, Jim, we talked about, dirty bombs and what? How about just a shoebox size of dirty nuclear waste and an explosive carried in on a drone?
That would be enough to probably lay waste to at least Mar-a-Lago for a few hundred years.
And in New York City, or let's say, let's go to some major place, even D.C. It would take out a few blocks, wouldn't it?
You got to keep your head on a swivel whenever we're in a
Maybe
situation
a 5 mile
like
area.
this.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention. Do not take anything for granted. If something seems to be out of place, doesn't seem to be right, go with your gut instincts, because God knows, there may be retaliation anywhere. They may not be actual agents of Iran. They may be simply sympathizers. They may be people who are in this country who sympathize with Iran and their beliefs. So you have to keep your eyes wide open and keep looking around and be aware of your situation.
Nobody is safe anymore. You're not safe. I'm not safe. Trump's not safe. Even the lefties are not safe. And when I say lefties, I say that very broadly, because there is, we go back to the ICE protest. They're out there ramping up again. They are doing that. So that's going on. No telling what we're going to see in the news in the days. Well, let's say the hours, the weeks, and the days and weeks to come. We don't know what's going on, but it's not going to get.
If there's an attack on a major facility in our country, and if they determine that it's some terrorist organization or whatever, Trump may initiate martial law of some kind in order to put things back in order. You talked about the left wanting to do that to get rid of him, but it may actually be something that he has to utilize to protect us.
Well, you've talked about all the illegals that came in. You talked about 8% of Nicaragua that came in thanks to Joe Biden.
Right.
And I came up that I said, well, that's 565,000 people. If you go by that statistic, 8% doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. And it, when you're looking at a populace of 7 million, that's about 565,000 people.
Peter Schweizer's book that I'm reading right now, The Invisible Coup, which is excellent. I'm, really enjoying it. He mentions that there's 58% of the population of Mexico believe that they actually own California, New Mexico, and Arizona, and Texas, and that they want that land back. They think they are owed it back, by the way, because it was theirs in the first place. Mind you, we won it in 1848, but that's neither here nor there. These people now in Mexico, 58% figure it's theirs. They also feel that because it is theirs, they have the right to go unchecked back and forth across the border without permission from the United States. We wondered why so many people are coming across. There's a large element in Mexico of the population that just assumes it's theirs. You've seen demonstrations on TV in Los Angeles and places like that, and what flag do you see being waved? You see the Mexican flag being waved.
Well, let me ask you a question. I grew up, obviously, I was born in the United States, born in California. And even in California, the predominant language, the only language, was English. It's only recent, maybe it's evolved since I left there back in 76, but the simple fact is, then it was like anywhere else, but even anywhere else is no longer the same. The point I'm trying to make is that, like, when I turn on the TV, all of a sudden I'm watching a commercial and I go, oh, it's a Spanish commercial. The next commercial is a Spanish commercial. And the program is not a Latino-oriented show, and it's in English. So why are it's an indoctrination. They're trying to sit there.
They're normalizing the acceptance of a secondary language.
Yeah, and which is why Trump said, you know what, it has never been adopted. It was considered the national language. We never had a national language. And that's the room for the people that want to be the nattering nabobs.
Did you see what McDonald's is doing in Germany?
What?
They have electric advertising signs, I guess, at the McDonald's over there. And I guess it's Ramadan. And so in honor of Ramadan, they're not promoting or advertising any of their electronic signs with pictures of meat or food. Because I guess there are times of the day during Ramadan when you're supposed to fast. I'm not an expert on that. So in respect to all of their Muslim customers, they are showing images of the containers empty, like a French fry container, empty on the sign. But then, go ahead.
I was going to say that's kind of smart because they know what goes in that container, but they're not promoting the actual.
I know, but the point is they are, to everybody else, they're capitulating to one side. Right. They're an American company promoting an American product, and they should, they should honor and respect that. I call me crazy, but I think we're bending over backwards to accommodate the minority.
Well, I agree with that. I would say over there, though, if they were going to do that in their advertising, everybody knows who they are and what they are. Just pull your ads down for a week, in respect. And then,
well, I think what should happen is the Christians who go to McDonald's during those hours that they don't show the food on their signs, don't go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian and you feel like you're being excluded from their promotions or their advertising, you don't have an obligation to eat there. Find someplace else to eat. Hurt them in the pocketbook because obviously they could give two damns about you. They're deferring to one segment of their customer base. And you're not that
That's
segment.
going on everywhere. But my point is, in the United States, I'm sorry. English is the language. Now, when I went to Germany, I picked up, a book, and I knew some German, and I spoke in German to do things and get around. There were some people there that were very nice.
I was that way when I was
English.
in France. When I was in France, I spoke, believe it or not, on the busload of tourists that I was on. I was one of the few people who knew a fundamental amount of French. Don't ask me to do it now. It was years ago. But I became friends with the bus driver because at least I was trying to be the liaison between the passengers who couldn't speak any French and the bus driver. And he would say something to me, and I would get what he was saying, and I would pass it on to the other people. And God help, I kept thinking when I was doing that, my high school French teacher would be amazed. He would have been amazed that I was the go-between. You had Harrington doing the translation? Anyway.
I gripe about not speaking Spanish, and I don't. But I do remember when I was younger, when I went to Mexico City with a group that was going around door to door and doing things, I learned basic things and understood basic things that I needed to communicate because I knew they didn't speak English, and we were told that you've got to do this. And so during the travel time, and weeks preceding, up to or leading up to the point, we learned what we needed to do to communicate. And then when I came back, it wasn't that important to me. I wish maybe it was. It would be easier to understand what's going on, but I still don't agree with what's going on because they're forcing something down our throat.
I mentioned my high school French teacher. I say that because in high school, I think I got a D in French. I mean, but now I could pronounce everything beautifully. I had a nice dramatic flair to the guttural, Monsieur, comment ça va aujourd'hui? I sounded like Charles Boyer. But I went to college, and I got an A in French. My high school French teacher would have been amazed at that. So the idea that I was the translator wasn't so far-fetched. I got some. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, in high school, you got a D. You were just one grade away from fantastic.
That's true. The old flag F there. I was.
How'd you do in school? Fantastic, Mom.
I got look at all
it says so right there.
That's true. Anyway, so during this coming weekend, keep your eyes open if you're going out to the mall or someplace. Just be aware of your surroundings and pay attention to the news. Things could happen. They could affect us. It's hard to believe, but it may. All I tell people on December 6, 1941, people had no clue what was going to happen the next day, all right? I can tell you, as a matter of fact, my mom and my dad were out for a date, and they were out driving around in my grandfather's car. My father couldn't afford a car. He was driving my mother's father's car. They were out for a date. They had the radio on, and they heard the attack. 1941, bombing Pearl Harbor. Nobody dreamed that would happen. You have to be aware during these situations. Even as remote as the possibility is, the possibility does exist. So pay attention, all right? Also, I would be remiss in this program not to take a moment to step aside, tip my hat to a guy I had a chance to meet back in 1980. I met him and his daughter, Neil Sedaka. He passed away at 86 years of age. I think it was unexpected. It was sudden.
I think they found him laying in a pond and tried to, whether he had a heart attack. I don't know. I don't know I just know I saw in the wee hours of the morning that we lost him, and that's sad.
Yeah. He was a talented guy. He was a bit standoffish to some people. Maybe it was because he was uncomfortable of the spotlight. He was just a kid from Brooklyn who had a terrific amount of talent, became part of the Brill Building group of composers with Carole King and people like that, and wrote a ton of hit songs. Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, and a bunch of stuff. And we lost him, and my condolences to his family. He had a daughter, Dara, who actually had a bit of a career with him for a while. They had a version of Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, I believe, which was a duet with him and Dara. And he'll be missed by a large segment of our population. He was a talented man and apparently a good guy. He got married in 1962, and he stayed married to that one lady and had a wonderful family. So, Godspeed, Neil Sedaka, and thank you for all you gave us.
Well, he left a big footprint. So
he did,
you go, well, I could never. Everybody can leave a big footprint. Yeah, it's the impression you leave with people that carries you on.
Right.
And
anyway, my friend, I think we can wrap it up. Again, we're at war with Iran right now. I'm sure that a lot of people will be paying attention to that. And I think you should, too. Don't just let it go by without you keeping an eye on what's going on in the news. It's important. Even if you're not a big news junkie, when your country starts a war, there's a variable in there that you have to be careful about. Anything can happen, and you should be aware.
Yeah, and don't pay attention to the social media today, the Facebooks, the TikToks, because the crybaby left will be out there taking the stories and totally twisting those stories all the way around to make it be totally the opposite of what's really happening.
Yeah, they'll politicize it, Bill. You're right.
And because only 1/3 of the population really gets the news, and then the rest get it from TikTok, and that's just that's a sad statement.
Did you hear what happened yesterday? One other little item in the news.
The AI thing?
No. CNN was sold to Ellison, who is a friend of Donald Trump.
Oops.
So I got a piece of audio. Have we got time for this? I get
Sure, we got all the time in the world.
It's only 17 seconds.
All right.
You know who Brian Stelter is?
Yeah.
That little gnome that works over at CNN, that liberal attack dog who has never been a friend of Trump. Well, the word came down that Ellison he beat out Netflix and purchased Warner Brothers and CNN, and that changes were in the wind. I'm talking about they may etch-a-sketch. Word is he may etch-a-sketch everything at CNN and bring it back to more of a mainstream, honest news organization. Wouldn't that be something? Anyway, Stelter is trying to protect his fanny. Listen to what he said.
But I can tell you, Ellison has talked in recent months about how he wants to sustain the news business in the United States. And he's talked about his belief that, quote, the majority of the country longs for news that is balanced and is fact-based. And, Wolf, that sure sounds a lot like CNN's mission. A lot of similarities here.
All I can tell you is that when Ellison said that, he wasn't looking at you, Brian. He wasn't thinking you're honest and fair and balanced. No, I'd break out the old, what do they say? Curriculum vitae. Your resume. Break it out, dust it off. You may need it again. Anyway.
Yeah, well, the world is shrinking for him. Where's he going to go?
That's true. He'll be doing a podcast with Jim Acosta. Tom Lemon. Yeah. Well, Don may need a guest host for a few months while he's taking a federal vacation.
What's this guy's name again?
That is Brian Stelter, the little bald guy from CNN who, he's a piece of work.
So it could be the Stelter Lemon Dumpster Dive podcast.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Appropriately named. Anyway, my friend, I think we can wrap this one up. Pay attention over the weekend, folks, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
All right. Until then, have a great weekend. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Who are we? And why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one? Or split and divide, or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there, you just have to search. Settle for less, you'll be left in the lurch. No left-leaning lies, no socialist swill. It's straight talking truth from your friends Jim and Bill. Our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our belief? Are they red, white, and blue? On the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved. This is CRN America.